You're welcome back. For decades, the Ogoni people of Rivers State have borne the brunt of environmental degradation caused by oil exploration, with polluted rivers, contaminated farmlands, and unbreathable air becoming part of their daily lives. The promise of a cleanup has been on the national agenda for years, yet progress has been painfully slow. In a recent move, President Bola Tinubu met with Rivers State stakeholders, including Governor Siminalayi, Fubara, and Ogoni leaders, to discuss the path forward. The meeting comes amidst renewed efforts to restart oil production in the region, a move that has stirred both hope and skepticism. While some see it as an opportunity for economic revitalization, others fear it could deepen the environmental scars of the past.
So today, joining us this morning to dissect these developments are Dr. Fyneface Dumnamene Fyneface, Executive Director of the Youth and Environmental Advocacy Center, and also Inatimi Odio, a renowned environmentalist. You are welcome, gentlemen. Thank you very much for giving us your mornings.
Thank you for having me on the program.
Yes. I'm going to start.
Good morning.
Yes,
delighted
indeed.
to be with you today.
Thank you. I'm going to start with Dr. Fyneface. Doctor, so the federal government claims to have remediated 36 sites and commissioned water projects. Now, how exactly can you verify this fact and the impact of these to the people of the area affected?
It's actually difficult to verify the claim by the Minister of Environment that the HYPRED has remediated 36 sites and that water has been provided for the Ogoni people, because I know in the first instance that the issue of water is still very controversial in the Ogoni area. Majority of Ogoni people are still drinking and relying on contaminated water sources. I can confirm water projects being cited in some areas, some of them running, but it's not yet sufficient as expected. After over 12 years since the UNEP report was released on August 4, 2011. And then the issue of claim of 36 sites remediated. You know, when a site is said to have been remediated, the people who have the responsibility to verify whether those sites have been properly remediated is the National Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency, NOSRA. NOSRA is a project, or let me say, agency under the Federal Ministry of Environment. The Hydrocarbon Pollution Remediation Project, HYPRED, that is carried out the cleanup, is a project under the Federal Ministry of Environment. So it is difficult for one arm of the same parent ministry to give a report that is done on another arm of the same ministry. So whatever they claim based on clearance they got from NOSRA is their position, unless when we as civil society organizations have been able to put together resources, put together expertise, and we are able to go on the field to independently verify some of these sites before we can give a pass mark to those sites. Because something happened some years ago in, I think, Kedere community, where Share claimed to have carried out environmental remediation. Amnesty International came forward with experts, audited the site, and it was found that hydrocarbon was still under the soil that has been remediated and certificated by NOSRA. So all of this put together is difficult for me to give a clear, clean-cut, approval or confirmation that those things have been done in those areas. But then the cleanup process is on, and they said they were going to take between 25 and 30 years. That is what UNEP said. So at this point in time, we are yet to really be able to verify that. So we still look forward to the multiple years to come, because the project started officially in 2016, and this is just about 9 years into the actual cleanup in Ogoni land.
All right. Let's come to Odio and just ask you, right? Just like Fyneface has put, oil production is about to start. Oil exploration never stopped, really. But oil production is about to start in Rivers State, at Warri as well, and also in Port Harcourt. Now, restarting oil production is pretty much a controversial topic, but let's talk about the potential environmental risks. As an environmentalist yourself, what are some risks that you foresee happening, and how can they be mitigated for the sake of the people?
Yeah, firstly, I'd like to first appreciate the federal government for deeming it necessary to have a stakeholders meeting. But my concern there is that the stakeholders meeting is not to solve the problem or particularly focused on solving the problem, but to continue oil production. But if that meeting had been called for, the stakeholders to come together to see how they can path the way forward, it would have been a very, very useful meeting. However, it is a step, and the journey of 1,000 miles starts with a step. High Prep was supposed to clean up Ogoni land, remediate, and restore the environment, the mangrove and the forest. But if at this point in time that has not been achieved, or reasonable percent of that has not been achieved, going back to oil exploration in those areas would sound to environmentalists as a secondary issue, because the primary issue was supposed to be addressing the problem that is on ground. Then we now begin to look at the economic benefits, of oil exploration. But for me, just like we have the Oloibiri well dried up, and the oil companies, SPDC, and the federal government has completely forgotten that area, and we have spills still found in those areas, and nothing is being done. It tells that the federal government is considering much more of what they want to benefit, what the federal government should benefit, rather than what the community people should benefit from the oil exploration. So basically, I think that if we want to get it right, the first step should be to ensure that the remediation has gone to a very reasonable extent and restoration has begun before we can begin to talk about opening the horizon.
Inatimi, I'm going to come to you with one environmental question, but first let me ask Dr. Fyneface this. Now, Dr. Fyneface, regarding the communication between the Ogoni people and the government.
That is my take.
Oh, okay. Dr. Fyneface, regarding the relationship between the Ogoni people and the government, there seems to be a relationship of distrust. I don't know if you could take us back and give us origins of why there is this level of distrust and how much the Tinubu government now perhaps maybe mean to impact the people. Are they taking it with the same kind of distrust, or are they open to these discussions that he has initiated with the governor and the FCT minister?
Thank you. Well, there has been a very serious distrust between the federal government of Nigeria and the Ogoni people is because what they have resurrected now in 2025 is a response to what Ogoni people actually wanted in 1990. In 1990, the Ogoni people presented to the federal government of Nigeria the Ogoni Bill of Rights. That Ogoni Bill of Rights was expected to be responded to by the federal government of Nigeria. The Bill of Rights actually talks about what the federal government of Nigeria needs to do for the people of Ogoni to benefit from the oil. They are mining from their soil. But the federal government of Nigeria never responded to that. The Ogonis waited 1990, they waited 1991, they waited 1992. By 1993, when no response was coming from the federal government of Nigeria and Shell was continually drilling oil from the area, then they decided to gather in one of the most greatest and massive gathering you can talk about of an indigenous people in 1993 and declare Shell persona non grata in Ogoni land, that they should stay away. And that process continued, and in the way of the federal government of Nigeria, under the military rule at that time, trying to force their way into Ogoni, they started clamping down on the Ogoni people. From 1990, 92 to 93 to 95, they started killing Ogoni people. Over 2,000 Ogoni people were killed. And then it came to a climax in 1995 when Ken Sarawiwa and 8 others were killed by hanging for campaigning for environmental rights and other issues. So all of this put together, a lot of Ogoni people have been expecting the federal government of Nigeria to address the issues that led to the suspension of oil extraction in 1993. But that issue has not been addressed. Several governments have come and gone, and nothing has been done. If you recall, in 1999, when Nigeria returned to democracy, there were 2 key issues on the table of the Nigerian government. The issue was how to address the annulment of the June 12th of the Yoruba nation, and the issue of how to address the killing of the Ogoni leaders here in Ogoni land. So these two issues were the two things that faced the government in 1999. But tactically, the federal government of Nigeria addressed that of Yoruba land by even going to the prison to pick former President Olusegun Obasanjo and made him president. They went further to recognize the winner of the annual June 12th election, MKO Abiola, as the president of Nigeria and gave him the highest honor of the land. Today we can roughly refer to Abiola as the former president of Nigeria. But the Ogoni issue remains pending today. So how come that now that the Tinubu administration, Tinubu has been part of agitation in this country, he has demonstrated on the street, he is an activist, he is an activist that we know and an advocate. We know how he also fought for the democracy that we have today. So now he wants to attend to the Ogoni issues. Where he is starting from is that oil extraction should start. One would have expected the meeting that held in Abuja in order to build trust to say, okay, federal government of Nigeria is now prepared. We are now ready to address the Ogoni issue. What are the Ogoni issues that we need to address? What are the wounds? How do we heal the wounds? And then begin to talk about the exoneration of Ken Saro-Wiwa to clear all those that were killed. And then look at the issue of saying that, okay, the cleanup is ongoing. It's one of their demands in the Ogoni Bill of Rights. We are going to ensure that it is properly funded and completed on time. We recall that we confiscated the Ken Saro-Wiwa Memorial Bus. We are going to release that. And we are going to address all your grievances. Then go home as those who represented these people. Talk to your people. Let them come forward and then bring us a report on what we need to do to address the Ogoni issues. When this process would have been concluded, in the way of addressing the issue, you now said, okay, now that we have addressed this issue, can we now come back to take oil so that your youth can be employed? The economic activities, which is one of the demands of the Bill of Rights, can be addressed. These are the processes and strategies that the government is supposed to follow. But now they are just going straight to say, we are going to extract oil without being able to address some of these issues. And that is confrontational. And it's not going to be something that will go well, because as we speak today, the people are divided.
Okay, Doctor.
Those who support the oil extraction and those who don't support it, and those who are on the neutral ground. So Ogoni today is charged, as charged as it was in the 1990s. And that is why you have a lot of distrust on the part of the government.
All right,
because
Doctor.
Nigeria is looking to be able to fund 202 million barrels per day to fund the 2025 budget. That is why they have now remembered Ogoni to be able to come and collect oil.
All right, just a second, Doctor. Just a second, Doctor.
2 years of wounding the Ogoni people.
I didn't want to lose one train of thought there. Thank you very much for bringing up Ken Saro-Wiwa, who was himself an environmentalist. Now, coming to you, Mr. Inatimi. Inatimi, regarding the efforts by past advocates like Ken Saro-Wiwa, looking at that and having that in mind, what efforts could the federal government, the Tinubu-led federal government, currently now have with the land or the Ogoni people that could make them perhaps soften their stance regarding this exploration that's supposed to begin? What can they do environmentally to help the people or make the people more acceptable of their suggestions to oil explorations?
Yes, thank you very much. The first thing, just like Doc had just said, is trust. Number one, if something had happened and someone is aggrieved, the most important thing at that point in time is to first, have an apology to say, we are sorry for this. Because Tinubu did not, kill Saro-Wiwa. Federal government did. So federal government, on its own wisdom, should be able to apologize to the Ogoni people, to Niger Delta people, and come to a round table to discuss issues concerning Ogoni land, and to ensure that, those grievances are laid. First of all, if you are talking about building trust, people should take positive steps to meeting their immediate needs. There are people without livelihood. The rivers have been polluted. The mangrove have been destroyed. That is also increasing the environmental issues, because the mangrove that is supposed to be sequencing the CO2 has been destroyed. So now we are also contributing to climate change issues. The people are suffering, and that is also bringing poverty. There are socio-economic issues that are facing the Ogoni people, the Niger Delta people on the daily basis. So the most reasonable thing to do is to begin to have conversation, engagement with these people to see how best, they can, their suffering can be, alleviated. With that, he will begin, the presidency will begin to build trust. And as they build trust, they, openly apologize for, what the federal government has done and demand from the Ogoni people what, they think should be done, to make the past become a past. Because as long as, the Nigeria is concerned and the way the federal government is dealing with the Ogoni people is concerned, the past has not passed. The death of Ken Saro-Wiwa is still as fresh as today. It just happened today because all the grievances and everything are still almost the same. So the government has to be deliberate, have consultation with Ogoni people and empower Ogoni people through, implementing the objective of high prep to the letter. Because if we are saying for almost 10 years, that the cleanup started, we can hardly, measure reasonable success. Where can we get trust? Where can we get the backing of the Ogoni people, to support the cleanup process? So I think those are the things that would help to heal the wound, and to heal the grievances in the heart of Ogoni people and Niger Delta people as a whole. So I think those are some of the steps that the federal government should take. Engage the people, be deliberate over the cleanup exercise. Because it has been so politicized that, when we talk about Ogoni cleanup, we begin to wonder if Ogoni cleanup for about 10 years now has not yielded, any fruit. If we are looking generally at the Niger Delta, how long will it take the federal government to clean up the Niger Delta in a manner that, we would say we have a good environment? So the fear of, the government not being reasonable to the Ogoni people will cause resistance, even if the federal government tries to go back to Ogoni, to give license for operation. They should really, really engage Ogoni people and the Niger Delta. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I mean, beyond the cleanup, right? We've been talking about the cleanup. Let's move away beyond that and just focus on the people and, and the community, their livelihoods. The environment has been destroyed. I mean, like you said, Dr. Fyneface, at the beginning, you cannot ascertain this water projects that the Minister of Environment is saying. And well, one thing is certain, that the people there don't have access to clean water. And we've seen clusters of cholera outbreaks, especially in Rivers State from last week that we saw. And so it begs the question of, sustainability in terms of sustainable livelihoods for the people that lives in this community. How can we ensure that just beyond the cleanup, as we wait for a more holistic approach when it comes to the cleanup, or whether it's done or not, ensured or not, how can we meet their immediate demands now? Access to clean water, food, shelter, environmental sanitation. What more can we do at this time? I'll start with you, Dr. Fyneface, and then Inatimi can continue to answer the question.
Yeah, what we need to do at this time to address those issues you have itemized and mentioned is for the federal government of Nigeria to declare emergency on the Ogoni cleanup project. If emergency is declared on the Ogoni cleanup projects, all the bottlenecks, all the laws, all the acts of parliament that is slowing down action and fast-tracking of the Ogoni cleanup project will be suspended. When that suspension has been achieved, they cannot be able to move in to expedite action, award contracts within the shortest possible time, ensure that these things are done without any bottleneck that will make this system not to work. But now you have a system whereby the hydrocarbon pollution remediation project, HYPRED, that is carried out the cleanup project, is just a project under the Federal Ministry of Environment. I will also think that by emergency being declared on this project, HYPRED should be made a full-blown agency to be able to stand on its own, to have the same characteristics and rules like INEC, to have the same characteristics and rules like you also have, other agencies that can be able to stand on their own, like we have the development commissions that we have, be able to stand on their own, carry out their policy, and be able to take some actions without having to pass through Federal Ministry of Environment a lot of bottlenecks before they can take action. That way, we'll be able to quickly ensure the speedy completion of the cleanup. Remember, it is not everywhere in Ogoni land that the cleanup was, the audit was even done by UNEP. There are sites that UNEP never covered, which they are also trying to cover. All of those put together, they should also be able to address the issue of livelihoods. Now the environment is polluted, people cannot go to farm, a lot of fishermen cannot fish. When they catch their net, what they catch is oil, not fish. They should be able to empower the people through the provision of livelihoods. Now, the UNEP report also provided for $10 million to be used to provide alternative livelihood opportunities for youth who were involved in illegal refineries within the Ogoni area. I have not seen any holistic or embracing policy or action on the part of HYPREP or the federal government to really utilize that resources to address that issue. So all of this put together is making it difficult for the people to really be able to benefit from the process.
Right.
Because you cannot shut down an area where you are pouring chemical and doing some job without being able to provide concrete alternative for the people.
Inatimi, you have the floor. Go ahead, because we're about to wrap up. Your thoughts very quickly.
Okay, for the sustainable livelihood assessment, for the sustainable livelihood aspect, I think a sustainable livelihood assessment should be done. Because as Ogoni land is, there are different communities, there are different people, there are different interests and different livelihood opportunities. So I think a livelihood assessment should be done, and a sustainable livelihood plan should be implemented, by the government. That will now put everyone in their right places, a round peg in a round hole, a circle peg in a circle hole. So that gives everybody the opportunity to be able to do what they think best they can do within the livelihood opportunities within Ogoni land. Sometimes when projects or programs are initiated, it is imposed on the people. But if those engagements from the needs assessment to the livelihood assessment is done with the people, we'll be able to get, livelihood opportunities that would engage the youth, the women, the men, everybody, so that people can be more productive. And when they become productive, the needs and the interest will change. And as the needs and the interest change, the federal government will be able to build from that to be able to achieve that economic potential, which is in Ogoni, that they desire to get. Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen. Dr. Fyneface, many thanks, and also to you, Inatimi.
Thank you for having me on the program.
Pleasure.